So in talking about the characters from the original ensemble, the story arcs, and the episodic stories that play out each week in the Spanish original, and how many of those stories and how much of the same character dynamic will translate to the American version, I would say that we started with the exact same bones. So the series regulars of the American adaptation pretty much fundamentally mirror, almost to a character, the same cast of characters that exist in the Spanish original. And the same dynamic with Laura and her soon-to-be ex-husband ending up in the workplace together, with a fun flirtation existing between Laura and her partner. In the American series, his name is Billy, with the rivalry between Laura and the other female detective in the precinct. In the American version, her name is Meredith. And with the somewhat more comedic, harried but ever resourceful precinct assistant, who in the American version, his name is Max. So we started with the same cast of characters, and we're trying to mirror the fundamental dynamic from the Spanish original in the American version. So ultimately, between Laura and Jake, as we call her ex-husband, who becomes her captain in the American version, there's a will they or won't they romantic runner happening throughout the series that starts with the pilot episode, just as in the Spanish original, and will arc out over the course of the series. And hopefully the audience will have a spirited discussion in online bulletin boards and in the blogosphere about whether or not they should or would end up together. And then there'll be other, romantic triangles that will mirror things that go on in the Spanish original. We will meet Laura's family members in the Spanish original. We focused more on Laura's mom. In the American version, in the first 13 episodes, we meet Laura's dad. So there are some small changes that are being made, but ultimately we're trying to keep the same storytelling dynamics alive. So we're talking about running time and the fact that the Spanish original on average runs about twice the length, sometimes more so, than a typical American episode. And it's something that I'm very envious of, because I would so welcome the opportunity to let episodes breathe a little bit more, to have more twists and turns in every episode, and also to have the opportunity to just play more scenes that are strictly about character dynamics, whether it's about romantic tension, dramatic tension, Laura dealing with the boys, Laura and Jake trying to figure out how to co-parent, or just the adults in the precinct talking about their lives and not always focused on the case. The challenge for the American television staff is for us to try to condense all of those ideas in one 43-minute segment, which is incredibly challenging. And often I find that I just wish I had 2, 3, 5 more minutes just to say something a little bit more each episode, or to have one more clue to make the case a little bit smarter, a little bit more surprising. But there are limitations that are imposed upon us by the broadcast networks. And I am so grateful that NBC has put this show on American television that I certainly can't complain, and I make the best that I can with the parameters that we've been given. So we're talking about the setting of The Mysteries of Laura and the fact that in the American version, it's set in New York City. One interesting side note is that when I wrote my original pilot script, my initial draft of the pilot adaptation had the show set in Los Angeles, where we are conducting this interview and where my colleagues and I write the show. This was in part because I thought that Los Angeles looked a lot like the Madrid that I saw in the pilot episode of the Spanish original, and also because I live in Los Angeles, and it was much easier for me to write the show in Los Angeles than to travel back and forth between New York and LA. But we had the great good fortune to hire Debra Messing to play Laura, and there is no greater American actress that under the sun that we could find to bring Laura to the American television audience. Debra Messing lives in New York City. Her family life is steeped there, and she wanted to film the show in New York. And we immediately said, yes, absolutely, we'll bring the show to New York. Excuse me. And we immediately said, yes, absolutely, we will bring the show to New York. So as a result, I immediately had to jump back into the pilot script, rewrite the show set in New York, and it was an overhaul, but we haven't looked back. I'm so excited about the fact that the show is set in New York. We get so much wonderful production value being on the streets of New York City, being able to shoot in Central Park, being able to shoot in Times Square, being able to go over to outer boroughs or to New Jersey and look back on the beautiful vista of the Manhattan skyline. And I think it just makes the show feel even more American and just makes it feel grittier and more exciting than it otherwise might have been if it had been set in LA or anywhere else. So yes, the show will be based in New York in every week. We take some poetic license, if you will, and move a little bit out of Manhattan now and again, even though the show is set in a downtown Manhattan precinct. Even in the pilot episode, we go out to suburbia. We call it Westchester, to a beautiful, Gadsby-esque mansion in order to experience different environments. And there'll be other times when we do the same. There'll be an episode in one of the first 13 episodes of the American version where we go out to a racetrack where a crime has taken place, and that's outside of the borough of Manhattan. But we'll typically come up with reasons to explain why Laura is leaving the borough. Will Laura and company have a very special episode to LA or another distant location down the line? I only hope we're on the air long enough to be able to do something as fun as that. We're talking about whether the original Laura and the American Laura could ever end up on the screen together solving a case in the same episode. Nothing would delight me more, nothing would delight Debra Messing more than to bring the wonderful Laura of the original together with the Laura of the American adaptation. The only question is, who would play Laura? Would it be Laura and Laura? That's a puzzle that we'd have to solve in the writer's room, but we would be absolutely excited to make that happen.